There is a $2 herb, the same one sitting in your spice rack right now, the one you throw on a roast chicken, and in a real head-to-head trial, it grew back about as much hair over 6 months as the pharmacy's most famous baldness drug. Same herb, $2, and it did it with fewer people complaining that their scalp itched. That herb is rosemary. And I know how that sounds. Believe me, when I first read that study, I rolled my eyes too, because there is a whole industry, a whole shelf at the pharmacy of $80 growth serums and thickening bottles, and here's this weed that grows on the side of the road in the Mediterranean, quietly doing the same job for the price of a coffee. But here's the part nobody tells you, and this is the part I really need you to hear, because it's the reason 9 out of 10 women try rosemary for their hair, see nothing, and give up in 3 weeks calling it a scam. Thinning hair, that wider part, the way you can suddenly see more scalp in the bathroom light, the little wisps at the temple that never used to be there, it was never really a hair problem. Your hair is already dead. I mean that literally. The strand you brush is dead protein. You cannot feed it, you cannot repair it, you cannot wake it up, because there is nothing alive there to wake. The living part, the only living part, is buried down in the scalp. It's called the follicle. And the follicle isn't dying of old age, it's being slowly strangled. 2 things are choking it: poor blood flow and a hormone. And both of those, they respond to rosemary at 1 hour of the day that almost nobody uses correctly. Do something for me. Don't get up, don't go anywhere. Just take one finger, the hand that's holding your phone, and run it along your hairline, right where your forehead ends. Feel that. Now slide back toward the crown along your part. That warmth, that skin, that's where this happens. Not the ponytail, not the ends. Right there under your fingertip. That patch of scalp is where you either wake the roots up or you keep watering a dead plant and wondering why nothing grows. I'm Dr. Federer. I spend my days on the boring, unglamorous chemistry of what actually reaches a follicle and what just sits on top of your head smelling nice. And I'll be honest with you up front, the way I'd want a doctor to be honest with me. Rosemary is not magic. It will not bring back a scalp that's gone completely smooth and shiny, and I'm going to tell you exactly where it fails before I tell you where it wins. Fair? I want to tell you about someone because she's the reason I take this seriously. A woman. She'd been coming to me for years for other things, and one day she pulled her hair back at the temple, sort of held it there, and she didn't say anything for a second. And then she said, quietly, "I don't recognize myself in photos anymore. Not the wrinkles, the part. The way the light went straight through to her scalp in every picture." She'd spent, I think she told me, close to $400 over a year on serums and thickening sprays and one of those laser combs. $400 and nothing. And I remember thinking, she did everything the bottle told her to do, and the bottle was lying to her. So we went back to the $2 herb, used the right way, and I'll come back to her, because there's a number at the end of her story that still surprises me. But hold on to that image, the part, the light going through, because that's fixable more often than you've been told. Okay, let me actually back up and tell you what's happening up there, because once you see it, the whole thing makes sense. In most women, especially after 50, the hair doesn't fall out in clumps. It thins. Each hair comes back a little finer, a little shorter, a little more see-through than the one before, until one day the follicle just stops bothering. That shrinking has a name: miniaturization. Say that word once, out loud if you can. Miniaturization. Because that is the enemy. Not falling hair, shrinking follicles. And the thing doing most of the shrinking is a hormone called DHT. Say that one too, DHT. It's a byproduct your body makes from testosterone. Yes, you have it too. Every woman does, using an enzyme with a mouthful of a name, 5-alpha reductase. DHT latches onto the follicle and over years chokes it down to nothing. Now here's where it gets interesting. In the lab, rosemary appears to do the one thing those $80 serums only pretend to do. It seems to block that enzyme. Less enzyme, less DHT sitting on the follicle, less strangling. That is not me being poetic, that's the mechanism researchers keep pointing at. And that trial I mentioned, I want to be precise because you deserve precise, not hype. 2015. They took people with pattern hair loss and split them in two. One group used minoxidil, the standard drug. The other rubbed rosemary oil into the scalp. 6 months. And at the end, the two groups had gained a comparable amount of hair, with the rosemary group reporting less of that maddening scalp itch the drug is famous for. One study, not 100. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's settled science, but it is a real, published, head-to-head result, and it is a very good reason to spend $2 before you spend $80. So why, if it's this simple, does almost everyone fail with it? Here's the mistake, and it's such a small thing, it's almost funny, except it's the difference between new hair and a wasted 3 months. I'll tell you exactly what it is before we're done, and once you hear it, you will not be able to unhear it. Let me give you what rosemary actually does, because it's not one thing, it's 3, and each compound has its own job. The first is a compound called carnosic acid. Think of it as the bodyguard. A struggling follicle is under what we call oxidative stress. Think rust, basically, cellular rust. And carnosic acid is a powerful antioxidant that shields the follicle's little energy factories so it has the strength to keep producing hair instead of quitting. The second is rosmarinic acid. That one is the peacemaker. So much thinning has a quiet inflammation underneath it, a scalp that's a little red, a little tight, a little angry, even if it doesn't hurt. Rosmarinic acid calms that fire down, and a calm follicle is a follicle that stays in the growing phase longer instead of shedding early. And the third, this is the one you can actually smell, it's the piney, sharp part of the aroma, a compound called cineol. Cineol is the wake-up call. It gently irritates the scalp in the good way, the way a cold splash of water wakes your face, and it pulls blood, oxygen, nutrients, fuel up to a follicle that has been running on empty. And a follicle with a real blood supply is a follicle that can actually grow a thick strand instead of a wisp. Bodyguard, peacemaker, wake-up call. Rust, fire, starvation. That's the three-front war happening on your scalp, and that's the war rosemary walks into. Which brings me to the question this whole channel is really about. Why at night? Because, and this is the part the serum companies will never put on the label, the single most important thing you can do for a follicle is give the rosemary time and quiet on the scalp, undisturbed, with good blood flow. And there is exactly one window in your day where all 3 of those line up. Night. During the day, your hair is up, or you're out, or you're going to wash it because you can't walk around with an oily scalp. So the rosemary gets maybe 20 minutes before it's gone. 20 minutes is nothing. The compounds need hours to work their way down to the follicle and do their job. At night, it sits there for 6, 7, 8 uninterrupted hours. Nothing washes it out, nothing rubs it off on a collar. And there's a bonus, and it's a real one. When you lie down, blood flow to the scalp actually changes, you're not fighting gravity the same way, the vessels relax, and that warm oil is sitting on skin that's finally getting a fuller supply. And the little massage you give while you put it on, right before bed, that lowers the stress signal, the cortisol, and cortisol is a quiet killer for hair. High stress hormone tells follicles, not now, stay asleep, we've got bigger problems. It's the thing that locks them in that resting, not growing phase. Lower that signal at night with your hands right before you drift off, and you are basically telling the roots, it's safe, you can grow now. You cannot get that combination at 8 in the morning on your way out the door, hair up, rushing, cortisol climbing, oil washed out in 20 minutes. You can only get it at night, which, by the way, is exactly why the mistake I keep promising you is so easy to make. Because everything about how we're taught to use hair products is built for the morning, for the mirror, for the quick rinse. It's the opposite of what the follicle needs. Hold that thought. Now let me be straight with you about who's selling you the opposite. Walk down the hair aisle and you'll see 2 bottles from the same company, a day serum and a night serum. 2 bottles, 2 prices. And most of what's in either one is water, a whisper of fragrance, and just enough plant extract to legally put a leaf on the label. That's not medicine, that's marketing. The active amount is a rumor. You are buying a nice smell and a pretty bottle, and your follicle never even meets the ingredient that would help it. $2 of real rosemary, used correctly 1 hour a day, gives that follicle more than the whole shelf. Okay, let me walk you through how to actually do this, because the how is everything. This is where 9 out of 10 women go wrong, and I don't want you to be one of them. 3 layers, that's it. Layer 1 is the rosemary itself, and you have 2 honest ways to get it. The gentle way, you steep a good handful of rosemary in a mild carrier oil, something like jojoba or a light olive oil. and you let it infuse. The important word there is infuse, not boil. If you cook it, if you crank the heat and let it bubble, you cook the medicine right out of it, the carnosic acid, the delicate part. It doesn't survive a hard boil. Gentle warmth, then off the heat, then patience. The stronger way is a few drops of proper rosemary essential oil mixed into that same carrier. Either works. The exact amounts, how much rosemary per cup, how many drops, the whole card, I've written out for you. And I'll tell you where in a moment, because I am not going to have you guessing at concentrations. Guessing is how people burn their scalp. Layer 2, and please hear this, is where it goes. It goes on the scalp, not the hair. This is the whole ball game. I watch people pour it over the lengths, work it through the ponytail, comb it to the ends, and the ends are dead. The follicle is not in your ponytail. The follicle is in your scalp. You part your hair, you get the oil down onto the skin along that part, along the temples, along wherever you're seeing more scalp than you'd like, the living ground, not the dead crop. Layer 3 is the massage. 2, maybe 3 minutes, with the pads of your fingers, small circles, moving the scalp itself over the bone, not scratching, moving. That massage is not a spa thing, it's mechanical. It physically pushes blood into the follicles, and there's research suggesting the stretch of that massage nudges the follicle's own stem cells to make thicker hair. 2 minutes, every night. Then you leave it, you sleep, and in the morning you wash it out with a gentle shampoo. A couple of do nots, and these matter. Do not use rosemary essential oil undiluted straight on your skin. It's strong, it can burn, and an irritated scalp sheds more, so you'd be going backwards. Always in a carrier. And do not do the massage with your nails, fingertips. You're feeding the root, not attacking it. Now let me tell you what you'll actually see and when, because if you don't know the timeline, you'll quit right before the good part. This is the honest calendar. The first 2-3 weeks, you'll see nothing good, and maybe something that scares you, a little more hair in the drain. I told you this already, but I'm telling you again because it's the moment everyone panics. That early shed is often the follicle pushing out an old, tired hair to grow a new one. It is not the rosemary hurting you. Ride it out. Around week 4 to 6, the first real sign, and it's not length, it's your scalp. It feels different under your fingers, less tight, maybe a little less of that flaky, angry feel. That's the rosmarinic acid calming the fire. You'll feel it before you see it. By month 2, 2.5, this is the one people gasp at, the baby hairs. Run your finger along your hairline and you'll feel this fine, soft fuzz standing up. Little short hairs that weren't there. They look like nothing. They are everything. That is a follicle that woke up and started over. And by month 4 to 6, if you've been honest with it, every night, on the scalp, not the ends, those baby hairs are longer, they're darker, they've got some backbone to them, and the part looks narrower. The light doesn't go straight through the way it did. That's the whole game. Not a miracle overnight, a slow, real, month by month filling in. That woman I told you about, the $400, the photos, at about month 5, she sent me a picture. Same lighting, same spot, on purpose. And the part had closed up enough that she'd stopped parting it on that side to hide it because she didn't need to anymore. $2 of rosemary after $400 of serum. That's the number that still gets me. Now, before I forget, because this is important and I mean it, the exact recipe, the measurements, the how many drops and how many nights, and the little step-by-step card so you can't get it wrong, all of that is waiting for you in the description, right at the top, inside my full guide for mature hair and skin. Please, actually go read it before you start. I put it there so you'd stop guessing. All right, I promised you the mistake, the one that quietly ruins it for almost everyone. And now that you understand the scalp, you're going to get it instantly. The mistake is not the rosemary. The mistake is that people put it on their hair and they wash it out too fast. They treat it like a conditioner, slather the strands, rinse in 10 minutes, and then wonder 3 weeks later why nothing's growing. Of course nothing's growing. You spent 3 weeks oiling a dead ponytail and never once got the rosemary onto the living follicle and never gave it the hours it needs. It was never going to work like that. That's not rosemary failing you. That's rosemary being used on the wrong part of your head for the wrong amount of time. Scalp, overnight, every night. Get those 3 right and you've done more than the serum ever could. And now, because I promised you honesty, and honesty is the whole reason you should trust anything else I say, let me tell you where rosemary does not work. Please listen to this part. If a patch of your scalp is completely smooth, shiny, no fine hairs at all, the follicle long gone, rosemary cannot raise the dead. A follicle that's truly closed is closed, and no oil reopens it. Rosemary wakes up follicles that are still alive but sleeping, still shrinking but not gone. It is not overnight. It is not 2 weeks. This is a 3 to 6 month project, minimum, because a follicle can only grow so fast. And I want you ready for this. You may even shed a little more in the first few weeks as tired old hairs get pushed out to make room. That's not the rosemary failing. That's often the first sign it's working. Don't panic and quit at week 3. That's exactly when people quit. Do a patch test first, a little on your inner arm, wait a day, because some skin doesn't love rosemary, and keep it away from your eyes. And this one really matters. If your hair loss came on suddenly, or in round bald patches, or with other things, tiredness, weight changes, brittle nails, that is not a rosemary situation. That's a go see your doctor and get your thyroid and your iron checked situation. Sudden or patchy loss has causes that an herb will not touch. And no, nobody is hiding this from you. It's not a conspiracy. It's just an old, cheap, unpatentable plant that no one can make $80 a bottle off of, so no one runs the giant ad campaign. That's all. That's the whole secret. Let me pull it all together. 5 steps so you leave with the plan and not just a nice feeling. 1. Get real rosemary onto a carrier oil, infuse it gently, never boil it. 2. Part your hair and put it on the scalp, the living skin, not the lengths. 3. Massage 2 minutes with your fingertips. That's blood flow. That's the wake up. 4. Leave it overnight, every night, and wash it out gently in the morning. 5. Give it 3 to 6 months, write out the early shed, and check that guide in the description so your amounts are right. That's it. That's the whole thing. $2, 1 hour, the right hour, on the right part of your head. I would genuinely love to know. Before you go, tell me down in the comments, where are you seeing it most? The part, the temples, the crown? Just tell me the spot. I read them and it helps me know what to make next. And next is the one I think a lot of you actually need even more than this one. Because rosemary wakes the root, but there is a second herb, one you almost certainly have in your kitchen too, that does something rosemary can't. It goes after the shedding itself, the hairs leaving before their time, and it works from the inside. That's the next video, and honestly, the two of them together are the closest thing I've found to a real routine. So subscribe so it actually reaches you when it goes up, because these little unglamorous plants have no advertising budget, and I'm the only ad they've got. You were never watering a dead plant. You just needed to get the water down to the root, at the 1 hour it could finally soak in. Go wake them up. I'll see you in the next one.